All right, welcome back to the Rush Hour Podcast. I'm your host, Freeway. I'm here with my co-host, my amazing co-host, Sizzle, Sackface, Eric Shen.
What's up? I'm holding a microphone too.
You don't have to look. So I have a new microphone that I'm using for this podcast. I just got this thing and I'm already in love with it. It's just a different vibe, a different type of energy. And we're going to be talking about a very controversial topic that has been in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Retro community in the last like 10 days or so. By the way, Happy New Year. This is the first Rush Hour podcast episode of the new year. So I hope that everyone had a happy holidays and all that good stuff. But yeah, there's this video that came out at the same exact time while I was making the Edison Awards. There was a video that came out that said, stop playing Edison, literally play anything else. And essentially what that video was, one of the main points is that other retro formats should get support from Konami, which I agree with. And I've said this in the past. I definitely agree that like Tangu format, GOAT format, even Hat format, because it popped off last year, should get an Ultimate Time Wizard. And I think that they should get, support from Konami in that way. Right now, it's still just everything is Edison. I think YCS Orlando coming up is also just Edison format as well. And I would like a change of pace. I'm not saying that I want these formats to permanently become the Ultimate Time Wizard standard because I think that's a bit much, but I would like to participate in a Tengu only Ultimate Time Wizard. And I would even play in the GOAT one, even though I do not play GOATs. I don't even like GOATs, but I was still playing it just because it's different. It's something to do. But what also came out of that was a bit of tribalism, I will call it, between the Edison community and the Tengu community. I see a lot of the comments saying things like Tengu format sucks, and then a lot of the people from the Tengu community saying Edison format sucks. It's just birds and frogs, and a lot of hateful rhetoric being thrown back and forth. A lot of comments directed towards Keegan. And one of the other things about the video that came out was that in it, he was saying that MBT and Simo, who are two friends, I guess, of Keegan's. I know that Simo and Keegan are both from Vegas. Like, I think they grew up together too. Because as I've become friends with Simo over the course of the last couple of years, like I've also learned that he knew Keegan since they were children. So at some point during Edison's glow up, right, they made a video, like Simo and MBT, they made a video just saying that, this format is really cool, and they played it. They did a couple videos on it, and obviously their channels are really big. Simo has like over 300,000 subscribers. MBT is like around 100,000 or something like that, maybe more by now. And so the idea was being expressed that the reason why Edison is the most popular retro format is because of marketing and because of people like Simo and MBT and also Keegan, obviously, because they are so big and they've been promoting it, and because Keegan has these big friends, these big Yu-Gi-Tuber friends. That's the reason why Edison is the most popular format, which I just do not agree with that take at all. I think that is actually very disingenuous to say that. Edison, when I came into it in 2022, was already pretty big. Like, honestly, it didn't even need me or anyone else to join it. It was already on that trajectory up. In 2022, when I joined Edison, I remember RBETs were already happening online. They were, really big Edison tournament. They were online only at the time on Dueling Book. But the second RBET had over 150 players. So like they've been
it's just not true.
They've been close to 200 players since I came into the format. Like they've only been growing over time. And last year we had a almost 500 person nationals in Austin, Texas for Edison. And then Anaheim, the last event of the year, was 309 players. So basically what I'm saying is I don't think that it's just marketing as the reason why Edison is the most popular retro format, because I think that marketing does certainly help. I'm not going to deny that. Like, obviously having marketing helps.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, you still need the product to be good for people to stick around. Edison has been around for years now, and it's still growing. It's not receding, it's growing. So to me, it's like no matter how much marketing, no matter how many smoke and mirrors you put up, if something is shit, people will still know like this isn't good and I do not want to participate in this, and it will not work ultimately. Like eventually you will just see a decline, but instead we've just been seeing it go up and up and up and up. And I think that's because one, me and you are both Edison players. We know like Edison is just a fun format.
Yep.
And if you're on the outside looking in, you don't necessarily have to agree with that, right? Like I'm not trying to force Edison on anyone really. My channel is predominantly Edison. Your channel is also predominantly Edison. And I don't go into like Hat servers or Tengu servers. I'm not even in those servers because I don't play their format really. But I don't go into their servers and try to tell them to play our format. Like I don't do that because I believe in letting people enjoy what they want. But what do you think about this whole discourse?
The video itself felt very bitter, I will say. I agree with you. Marketing definitely helps, but I also think it's really, I'm going to say bullshit that he thinks the whole reason Edison popped off is because Simo and MBT did like 2 or 3 videos on Edison. That's the whole reason we have an Edison community today. It's just not real. I also know I didn't even know MBT made videos about it for one thing, and then
Neither.
I know Simo did Tengu. I know he has a video about Tengu when he was like going through all the older formats, and he just landed on Edison.
Yeah, because he
And
has
it
to,
seems
because that's the history of Yu-Gi-Oh. Like
no, but he did like more Edison just because he just likes Edison.
Yeah.
Like he was just had the more fun with Edison. So yeah, I think it's BS. And like yeah, like you said, the product has to be good. There's a reason. Like even if marketing was the reason, marketing gets people in, but it doesn't keep them.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Edison's crap, and people just like Edison. So
Yeah, and I think that if people don't want to play Tangu format or any of the other retro formats, you know, that's just what people's choices. Like, you can't force people to stay in something if they don't want to. I personally do not actively play Tengu or Hat or Goats because they are to me all different games. It's the same way when people ask me to play One Piece or Lurkana or modern Yu-Gi-Oh! I always say no because you're essentially asking me to literally play a different game, and I just am not interested in those games. Like,
Yep.
I am not interested in those games. I'm only interested in competing for like prestige and prizes from Ultimate Time Wizard mainly, and like, you know, every once in a while playing like an online tournament or whatever, but I know I'm not really getting anything from it except, you know, like another accolade, which honestly whatever at this point. But like, I play Edison mainly because I genuinely enjoy it, and we do have an evolving meta, and it shifts and it changes, and I like
Yep.
talking with the top players and competing against you guys. Me and you have played a couple times now in tournaments, and that's really fun. When I go to these events, I'm seeing the same people. I have the privilege of being one of the people I went to every single YCS last year in America. I went to every single domestic YCS last year, every single one. And I've seen the same people at all of them. Like, as I'm going, I'm seeing the same group of people at every single one because Edison has staying power. Like, people keep playing it. They're not picking it up from, I guess, like marketing and then saying like, oh man, this format is actually shit, and they
Yep.
leave out. Obviously, some people, you know, you're always going to have some amount of people who just don't enjoy it after a while. And there's also such thing as burnout, which me and you have expressed too. We've had situations where we're like, damn, we've played so much, maybe I want to kind of pull it back a little bit, but we still just continue to compete and enjoy the format. And I think that that's true for a lot of our people. I think people are just enjoying the format, and that's the main reason why they're staying. I do think that Konami plays a part in it by making it Ultimate Time Wizard, but let me speak to that too. So Ultimate Time Wizard being only Edison, I was around before Ultimate Time Wizard existed. I was at YCS Pasadena 2022, right? There was 109 Edison pods that fired at that YCS. I was there. I played in like 5 of them, right? I won like 3 mats or whatever, and I had the time of my life playing 8-man tournaments. And that was the biggest we had at the time. That was for Konami support. That was the biggest we had, and I thought that was as good as it would get. And even on my podcast and stuff like that, and we had JOG Orlando on, I said it would be so awesome if maybe they did a YCS one day for retro format. I don't know if it'll ever happen because they're not really selling us cards, which they have tapped into now.
Yeah.
But at the time, they weren't selling us cards, so there's no incentive to really like, well, we do a retro YCS, we're not really making money off of it outside of the entry fee because you guys don't have to buy cards to play in that. Now they are reprinting cards like Substitute and all that stuff, and you know, in different rarities that are people actually want. But to the point, Edison was already so hot and popular in 2022 before Ultimate Time Wizard existed. So that's not even like Konami backing it isn't even necessary because again, RBETs already were reaching 200 players online, and that was the community at the time. RBET and Deck Devastators and Pika the Beak, that was the community before Konami came in, and it was big. Like that was for an online community, having a 200-person tournament is actually really, really good.
Yeah, I think the Konami seeing those numbers, like the 100 plus flights at Pasadena, like that's what got Edison noticed. I feel like you don't see 100 plus flights for any other format.
No, not even close. Actually, not even close.
And I don't like this whole discourse. I feel like I've been saying this for a while, but like retro Yu-Gi-Oh as a whole shouldn't be split and like divisive.
I agree.
We should just be
it's not a
happy
zero-sum
for
game.
each. Yeah, it's like if Edison is huge, that's good for Tengu, Hat, or wherever you play because that gets people into Edison.
Yeah.
And then people get into Edison will get into Hat and Tengu.
It's the gateway drug.
Like exactly. It's not Edison's fault Tengu isn't big. If anything, I feel like it's the opposite. Edison being big helps Tengu. Like you did Tengu stuff on your channel and you gained you're like a gateway for some people from Edison to Tengu.
Yeah. The same way like Keegan was a gateway for me getting into Edison, right? Like I got into it because I was watching the RBET happen on my TV. I was watching it on YouTube. You were streaming it. And I had been out of Yu-Gi-Oh for 5 or 6 years at that time. And I saw the gameplay. And because Modern is so different from Edison, like they're so drastically different, you are literally playing a different game. I said, wow, this is a game that I do enjoy. Let me try it. And I tried it. And obviously, if it was bad, I would have been like, you know what? I should have just retired from Yu-Gi-Oh. But instead, I enjoyed it so much that I ended up coming back to the game, and now I've become a content creator for Edison, and like I love it now. I'm watching my channel grow. I've been going to tournaments. I won a tournament. Like I've been having a great time. And I think a lot of people are having a great time. It's kind of like that meme where the group of kids are all huddled over and they're having fun. And then the one guy comes up and he's angry as hell. And they like one dude turns around like this and he looks over at him. And then they just go back to having their own little fun in their huddle because we're not really worried about anyone else. Like that's just the reality of it. Now I know there's a lot of stuff where people, I read a lot of comments and they're saying like, oh, Keegan always shits on other formats. He shits on Had, he shits on Tangu. That's okay. That's one person though. Like you cannot put that on the entire Edison community that Edison players shit on the other formats. Just because we don't want to play them or just because we individually don't like them does not mean that like that is we speak for the entire community. That's just not fair, right? Like I don't speak for every Edison player, neither does Keegan. Like if he doesn't like Hat, he doesn't like Tangu, he doesn't like Goats, the same way I don't really care for those formats, but I can play them. Doesn't mean that the entire like we get grouped together and that's where this tribalism crap comes in that I hate. Whereas like now you have retro people going against each other. It's like pick a side now. It's like, oh, are you an Edison player? Oh, fuck those Edison players or fuck those Tangu players. Like I don't want to see that from either side.
Yeah, I don't like that Tangu like video in the sense that like he was trying to argue that Tangu is just straight up better than Edison. I don't think a format is just objectively better than another format. You should just play what you like. And if he likes Tengu better, he should just point that out. But he's like literally trying to, I know he's not saying he's trying to make this agenda, but honestly, the whole video felt like an agenda that Tengu is just straight up better than Edison. The title of the video
says, don't play Edison, play anything else. That like, it can't, you can't say one thing and then say, oh, I don't mean it like that. Like that doesn't, that doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Like words
and then
mean things.
And then he's saying like the burnout thing, like you were mentioning earlier, like, hey, like maybe if you're burned out from Edison, you can try Tengu. And I totally get that, I guess. But like, if we had to compare Edison to like Melee, if Edison's Melee and like, I don't know, Go formats like N64.
It is really Melee.
Yeah, no one is trying to advocate for Brawl or Smash 4 tournaments. Nope. Everyone just wants to see Melee, and I feel like it's the same for Edison right now. Like, why are we trying to divide the Melee/Edison community? Just like, dude, there's so much love for Edison. It's just pop and just be happy for it and like promote Tengu on your own without bashing Edison.
I agree. I don't think that Edison needs to be bashed to promote Tengu, and it seems like the videos that perform the best on the channel are the ones that are anti-Edison videos. It's kind of, it's funny. One of the comments was like, this video is ironically a promotional video for Edison format.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's putting more eyes on Edison, if anything, because so many people are seeing it like, oh, if someone tells you not to do something, right? The human brain just naturally is curious, especially when it's something that's not perceived to be harmful. The human brain is so curious that it will just try it because people are telling you not to. That's just kind of how people's brain naturally works. So yes, I agree. It's kind of a promotional video for Edison, if anything. Like it's definitely not hurting it. And even at the end of the video, he's like, you know, Edison's too big for me to stop anyway. Like I have no power to really stop Edison, which is kind of funny because it's almost implying that he would if he could. Like in Edison, which is so funny because
that is so crazy.
Yeah, it just comes off really cringe, and I don't think that retro is a zero-sum game. I don't want to like attack Tengu or any of the other formats and say like you should not play this. I've told people, even when I said I don't like Hat format personally, but if playing Hat format makes you happy, please continue to play it, right? And I agree with you, Sizzle. I think Edison is the Melee of retro formats. It is the most popular retro format. And then Smash Ultimate, which would be modern, right?
Yep.
It's the bigger one. Like Ultimate is bigger than Melee. Yep. When you look at streams and stuff like that, you look at like the grand finals of any Smash Ultimate tournament, you look at the grand finals of a Melee tournament, they're comparable, but still Ultimate is bigger because it's the newest thing and it's the thing that the most people will play. But the retro people, the Melee players, they love Melee and they don't want to play modern. Like I don't want to play modern. They don't want to play modern. I decline all the time. And I just love playing Edison. I just love playing Melee. Melee is really fun. And it's also, to be subjective, but also like Edison's just good. Like it's a good format. It's just it is literally a good format. Like I don't know what to tell you. It's actually good. Like it's just a good format, bro. And I promise you, if you played it, you like it's a good format.
It has everything a format, in my opinion, needs for longevity too. Diversity, skill expression, lots of decks being good. Any deck can beat any other deck because the power level is so low. Yep. Like
and consistency, so that way, like it's not.
Yeah, exactly.
No deck is so consistent to the point where it feels like, why am I playing anything else? It doesn't feel like that. People have won tournaments in just 2024 alone, right? In just 2024, we had Christia Sworn, Dream Frogs, Black Wings, all these different decks. Like a bunch of different decks have won, and a bunch of different GBs, right? Like so many. And then so many decks have topped. We had X Sabers, which no one expected. X Sabers topping, Fishes topping. Like there's all these random Amaryllis, Wing Rhinos, Zombies, Teledad won tournaments. Like what? There's so many decks that win and do well in Edison that it seems ignorant to boil it down to a format that really only has 2 or 3 decks. The big 3 does not mean that there are only 3 decks in the format. Those are just the decks that have been performing the best in the last year or 2. That's just what that is. But the meta has been changing drastically over time because at one point, Vayu Turbo wasn't even a deck. Like when I came into the format in 2022, Vayu Turbo wasn't even a deck at the time.
It was one of the worst decks, actually, because like I remember before 2023 Nats when Kalenda won, I was thinking of playing, I was between Vayu and Zombies, and for the past like 3-4 tournaments online, Vayu was the second most played deck in every single one, and it had like a 0% conversion rate. And I was like, maybe this deck is ass.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Yeah, we were so...
People thought Diva Hero was the best deck. And when I came in, Diva Hero was like, oh, that's the deck. Diva Hero's the deck. And then obviously people thought it was Black Wings.
People weren't playing Dad and Return in Diva Hero back then.
Bro, like, and Frogs was only played by one guy. Ronak was the only one playing. Like Frogs now, if you look at the way Frogs has developed over the course of the last couple of years in Edison, when I came into the format in 2022, Hero Frogs had just been made in RBET2. Then that deck died out, and Ronak was the only person playing Frogs, and it continued to like, he played a different version of Frogs every time he topped. It was like Diva Frogs, Burn Frogs, all these different Frog decks, right? But Hero Frogs wasn't thought to be like, oh, it's a big 3 deck, or it's this deck that wins tournaments, because it didn't. It just never won a tournament until now it's winning a lot of tournaments because the meta for that deck has been pushed. The point is, Edison is constantly evolving, and it's still not stale. It's still not just a 1 deck format. And I think, from our opinion, it's just a good format. We like playing it. We like Melee. This is just what we like, and a lot of people feel that way.
It's a huge pet peeve of mine when people like go like, LOL, Edison is solved, because those people are always like not good at Edison. They don't know how to push the meta, so they think the meta's solved. They're just like, these guys like all play the same deck. I'm like, no, you guys have no idea what you're talking about. It's like you see Melee. It's like 20. I think it was in 2001, so it's like almost 24 years old now.
Yeah,
that game does not look the same.
No, it doesn't, and they're still finding out stuff. Donkey Kong and Link are beating the best player in the world, Zane. Like, he's been losing to Link, consistently losing to Link. Link was thought to be a bottom 5 character, and now he's lost to this guy.
He's lost to Aklo a few times, yeah.
Yes, with Link.
Like
Yoshidora won a major event for the first time ever in 2023, I believe it was. And we're having the exact same experience. GB's had not won an event in Edison for years. And just last year, GB won 2 events. 2 of them. Dragon Turbo hadn't won an event either, and then all of a sudden it won multiple events as well. Like, you had Ghost Rider winning events, you had Raikoko winning events.
Yeah.
And so people, and like Lightsworn, same thing. We hadn't had any Lightsworn wins either. And then here's Lightsworn, Christia Sworn winning, and Ultimate Time Wizard, 44 cards and all types of stuff. Anything's possible. And I think people do like that. I don't think that diversity necessarily means that the format is good, by the way. People who say like Tangu has more decks, as though that means it's better because it has more decks. I just don't like equating diversity with a format being good. Is just also disingenuous. Those are not equivalents at all.
I think it's important for longevity, but like in terms of like a skill expression and how healthy the format is, I don't think diversity really matters.
Exactly. Like, you don't just because a format has more decks does not mean intrinsically that it's a better format because there are just more viable decks. That's not how that works. So like a lot of the arguments I feel like are silly and really, like you said in the beginning, bitter. It just comes off bitter at the end of the day. Like, that's what I got from it. It's just like, this is a very bitter argument overall. Like, I don't really get.
There's no point. He's like trying to get people, like the fans, to like make more content and like push the envelope. But like, I don't know. There's a reason why we're all pushing Edison, because we just love Edison so much.
Yeah, I don't think about Tangu when I'm
I don't think about it at all.
Like, when I'm making videos, when I'm traveling to events, when I'm seeing my friends, because you guys, like, all the Chicago people are my friends, and like all my friends from Cali and everywhere else in the world. There's so many of New York, right? I have friends all over now. And when I'm making videos and traveling and doing all this stuff and we go out to eat together, at no point have we ever just been like, let's shit on Tangu format right now. Like, never once.
We're so bitter, oh man.
Yeah, like we don't just be like, why are those people, the few pods that fire at events for Tangu, we don't go over to them and fold our arms together and be like, look at them, all fucking sad playing that bad format. Like, we don't do that. We don't. let people have fun. Like if they like playing Tengu, let them have it. If they like playing Hat, let them have it. If they like playing Goats, let them have it.
Yeah. Dude, if anything, I feel like modern players sometimes come over to Edison tables and they're like, man, why aren't we playing Edison? It seems so much
Happens all
more
the
fun
time.
over here.
Chris
Yeah.
LeBlanc comes over every time I'm at a tournament. Chris LeBlanc, who's like a 6-time YCS champion now, will come over to my section and be like, "Yo, how are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I got scraped, or I'm X and 1, I might top or whatever." And he's like, "Yeah, I gotta enter one of these." And it's just, then he just walks away because he's like, "I like the idea of this, and the prize support is just better than what they deal with in modern."
Yeah.
Like,
Which is not real. But it's just crazy though, because I can literally feel the aura difference when I walk from the Edison side of the room to a modern side of the room. It is so sweaty and like
yeah,
tense on that side of the room. And then, yeah.
3,000
It's just
people at
like-
nationals. We have 466 total. So it's like both formats are thriving. Right? Like,
Yeah.
they're thriving. And then Philly Regional just this past weekend had a record-breaking 740 players at the Philly Regional. That is insane. So Yu-Gi-Oh's not really going anywhere. But again, like when I look at what I want to play, I still don't have any incentive to play Modern because it's just not what I want to do. It's a different game.
Mhm.
And I think Tango is a different game too. I have pros and cons to Tengu, Goat, and Hat. And I could discuss that at a later time. And they're my personal pros and cons to the format. Other people might like these things, but you know that there's hand
Yep.
traps, there's Solemn Warning, there's
Hate
triple
that card.
MST. And then like in Hat format, there's Soul Charge, there's Infernity, there's like all the decks that can just go crazy and then go Soul Charge it all back. Like the Dragon Ruler decks and the Lightsworn decks and the Gear Gia decks. Like they kind of all can do it really. The point is that every one of these formats has pros and cons for myself and for I'm sure every other person who plays Yu-Gi-Oh. Like they like things and that's why they either play the format long term or they leave the format. It is what it is. You can't force people to play a format though, bro. Like that's just not a
No,
thing.
you can't.
You
Yeah, you can't.
just can't. And no matter how many videos you make about it, no matter how bitter you are about it, no matter how much you try to say that the only reason people play that format is because of these two big YouTubers made videos, which is just false. Like that is just intrinsically false. Like it is just not true. People were playing Edison before. I didn't even know who Simo was at the time when I got in Edison. Like I genuinely had no idea who Simo because I've been out the game for so long. I didn't know who Simo or MBT was. I promise you, those big YouTubers had nothing to do with me getting into Edison. It was Keegan, who was Keegan's channel was smaller than mine is right now when I got in Edison. Just for like context, like his channel was smaller than mine is right now when I got in Edison. So it's not like Keegan was some big YouTuber either. I got in Edison because of Keegan, and then I liked it and I stayed because it's just a good format to me.
No, I agree. Yeah, it created the landscape for us that we needed to like do. I was playing Goats and like Goats got me into Edison.
See?
So like it's
The
just the
gateway
retro community. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And if I think that if I wasn't doing Edison content and Konami announced like the 3v3 with Tango and stuff like that, I probably wouldn't have cared because I wouldn't have been a retro player already.
Exactly.
You get what I mean? Like the only
Yeah.
reason I even cared about the 3v3 being Goats, Tengu, and Edison, and I started doing Tengu content is because I was an Edison person, and this is other retro formats being supported, and I was like, oh shit, let me start playing these formats, not Goats, but let me start playing these formats, and yeah, me and Fiend started testing and putting out videos, and me and Stengo were testing and putting out videos and stuff, and we had fun with it while it lasted, but then eventually we were like, it's just the gameplay is just not what and mind you, I'm a person who actually topped YCSs while Tengu was happening and while Hat was happening. It's not like I'm some bum who's not good at these formats or can't be good at these formats. It's not that. Like I know people try to say that too. It's like that's just ridiculous. Like I can do well in any Yu-Gi-Oh format. I have done well in every Yu-Gi-Oh format I've played it. I just don't want to play the format because it's not my type of gameplay. But if they got support from Konami and if they got Ultimate Time, which is I would play them because I'm a competitor at heart, and I think it would be cool to play one of, like a one of Tengu, a one of Hat, a one of Goat. I think they deserve it, and I think it would be really fun. But that's really all I got to say about this whole matter. Let us know what you think in the comments. Sizzle, if you want to say anything else, I don't know if you're like.
No, I just think we should just be inclusive, like I said earlier, because it just helps us all out. And if you want to support Tengu, but just the reason you picked Edison is because it was fun as hell. If someone else wants to pick Tengu, it should be fun as hell for them, and you should just show how fun it is. That's all I'm thinking.
Agreed. Guys, let us know what you think about this whole discourse in the comment section. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.